A young man named Eli woke up every morning already exhausted because his mind never stopped racing through everything that could go wrong that day. And by the time he was 26, he had quit 4 jobs, ended 2 relationships, and convinced himself that something inside him was simply broken beyond repair. But what happened next on a quiet mountain path would completely change how he saw his own mind forever. Eli lived in a small town nestled at the base of a mountain, where the mist rolled down every morning and settled over the rooftops like a soft gray blanket. From the outside, his life looked fine. He had a small apartment, a job at the local hardware store, and a few friends who waved at him on the street. But inside his head, it was a different story. Every conversation replayed in his mind for hours afterward. Did that sound rude? Did I say something stupid? Every decision, even something as small as choosing what to eat for lunch, turned into a mental tug-of-war that left him drained before the day even started. He told himself it was just how his brain worked, and that everyone probably felt this way, but deep down he knew something wasn't right. One afternoon, after another sleepless night spent replaying an awkward exchange with his boss, Eli decided to take a walk up the old trail behind his apartment, just to clear his head. He had walked that trail dozens of times before, but this time, near a bend where the trees opened up to a small clearing, he saw someone he had never seen before. An old man sat on a flat stone, completely still, watching the valley below. He wasn't doing anything, just sitting. And somehow, that stillness felt strange to Eli, almost unsettling, because he couldn't remember the last time he had sat anywhere without his mind spinning. Eli almost walked past without saying anything, but something made him stop. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was exhaustion. He asked the old man, almost as a joke, "Aren't you bored just sitting here?" The old man turned slowly, looked at him for a long moment, and said, "Bored is a strange word for a man who is finally quiet." Eli laughed nervously, but the words stuck with him. He sat down nearby, not really planning to stay, but ended up talking with the old man for nearly an hour. His name was Thomas, and he had lived in the mountains his whole life, working as a shepherd before his knees gave out and he switched to woodworking. As they talked, Eli found himself opening up in a way he never had with anyone before. He admitted that his mind never stopped, that even good moments felt tense, like he was waiting for something to go wrong. Thomas listened without interrupting, and when Eli finished, Thomas asked a question that caught him completely off guard. "Tell me," Thomas said, "when was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts, with nothing to distract you, not even for 5 minutes?" Eli opened his mouth to answer, and then realized he couldn't think of a single time. Even in the shower, he had music playing. Even lying in bed, he scrolled through his phone until his eyes closed. The realization hit him harder than he expected. He had spent years feeling overwhelmed by his thoughts, yet he had never actually sat with them, not once. Thomas seemed to notice the shift in Eli's expression, and he offered something simple. "Come back tomorrow, same time, same spot," he said. "Bring nothing with you. No phone, no music, no book. Just sit here on this same stone for 15 minutes. Don't try to think. Don't try to stop thinking either. Just sit." It sounded almost too simple, and honestly a little pointless. Eli had expected some kind of advice, maybe a technique, maybe a story with a clear moral, not an assignment to do absolutely nothing. But there was something about the way Thomas said it, calm and certain, like he already knew something Eli didn't. So the next day, feeling slightly ridiculous, Eli went back. He sat on the stone, set a timer on an old watch he found in a drawer, since Thomas told him to leave his phone at home, and he waited. The first minute felt fine. The second minute, his mind started listing things he needed to do. By the 5th minute, his thoughts turned to that awkward conversation with his boss again, and he felt his chest tighten. By the 10th minute, he was convinced this was the most uncomfortable 15 minutes of his life, and he almost got up and left. But he didn't. When the timer finally went off, Thomas was sitting a few feet away, like he had been there the whole time, though Eli hadn't noticed him arrive. "How was it?" Thomas asked. Eli admitted it was awful. His mind wouldn't stop. Every uncomfortable thought he had been avoiding came rushing in at once. Thomas nodded slowly, like this was exactly what he expected, and said something that Eli would think about for days afterward. "You didn't create those thoughts just now," Thomas said. "You've been carrying them the whole time." You just never stopped moving long enough to notice the weight." Eli sat with that for a moment, and something about it felt true in a way he couldn't quite explain. He had always assumed his mind was loud because something was wrong with him. But what if it was loud because he had never given it a chance to speak and instead kept drowning it out with noise, distraction, and busyness? Thomas asked him to come back again the next day, and the day after that, same time, same stone, 15 minutes, nothing more. Eli agreed, though he wasn't sure why. Maybe it was curiosity about what Thomas knew that he didn't. Maybe it was the strange relief of finally talking to someone who didn't try to fix him or give him advice he'd heard 100 times before. The second day wasn't much easier than the first. His thoughts were just as loud, jumping from worry to worry, replaying conversations, imagining future arguments that hadn't even happened yet. But on the third day, something small shifted. Around the 8th minute, Eli noticed his mind drift to a memory of his father, who had passed away when Eli was 19. It was a memory he usually avoided because it brought up a lot of guilt about things left unsaid. But this time, instead of immediately pushing the memory away like he always did, he just let it sit there. He didn't analyze it. He didn't spiral into self-blame like usual. He just noticed it, the way you'd notice a cloud passing overhead, and then it slowly drifted away on its own. When the timer went off, Eli felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not happiness exactly, but a strange kind of lightness, like he had been holding his breath without realizing it, and had just exhaled for the first time. He told Thomas what happened, and Thomas smiled for the first time since they'd met. That, Thomas said, is the part most people never discover, because they give up before the third day, or they never start at all. Your thoughts aren't the enemy, Eli. The real problem is that you've spent your whole life either obeying every thought your mind produces or fighting against it. Both of those keep you trapped, because both of them treat your thoughts as something you have to react to immediately. Eli frowned, trying to understand. "So what am I supposed to do instead?" he asked. Thomas picked up a small piece of wood he had been carving and held it up. "When I carve," he said, "pieces of wood fall away. I don't fight them. I don't follow them around the workshop. I just let them fall, and I keep working on what matters. Your thoughts are the same. Some of them are useful, like the wood that becomes part of the final shape. Others are just things that need to fall away so you can see what you're actually working with." Over the following weeks, Eli kept returning to that stone, and slowly the 15 minutes stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like the calmest part of his day. He noticed something interesting happening in the rest of his life too. When his boss made an offhand comment that used to send him into hours of anxious replaying, Eli noticed the old familiar spiral start to begin. But this time, he recognized it. It was just a thought, a piece of wood falling away, not something he had to pick up and carry around all day. He let it pass. For the first time in years, he went home that evening and actually enjoyed his dinner, instead of eating while mentally rehearsing arguments that would never happen. One afternoon, about 2 months after their first meeting, Eli arrived at the clearing and found Thomas waiting with a different question. "Do you still think something is broken inside you?" he asked. Eli thought about it honestly. His mind still got loud sometimes. He still had anxious thoughts, still worried about things, still occasionally replayed conversations late at night. But something had changed. Those thoughts no longer felt like floods that swept him away. They felt more like weather, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always passing through, never staying forever. "No," Eli said slowly. "I don't think it's broken. I think I just never learned how to sit with it." Thomas nodded, satisfied, like a teacher watching a student finally solve a problem they'd been working on for a long time. "Most people spend their entire lives running from their own minds," Thomas said, filling every silence with noise, every pause with a screen, every uncomfortable feeling with distraction. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, why they feel disconnected from themselves, why peace always seems to be somewhere else, some other time, some other place. But peace was never somewhere else, Eli. It was always right here, underneath all that noise, waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice it. Eli sat with that for a long moment, looking out at the valley below, the same view he had been too distracted to really see the first day they met. The mist was rolling in slowly, soft and unhurried, the way it did every morning, the way it probably had for hundreds of years before he was born. and would for hundreds of years after he was gone. And for the first time in his life, instead of feeling small or anxious in the face of that thought, Eli felt strangely calm. He still went back to that stone, even after he and Thomas became close friends, even after Thomas eventually taught him to carve wood too. Some days the 15 minutes were peaceful. Other days his mind was as loud as ever. But he no longer saw that as a problem to be fixed. It was just part of being human, part of having a mind that thinks, the same way breathing is just part of having lungs. And once Eli stopped fighting that simple fact, for the first time in his adult life, he finally felt at home inside his own head. If you enjoyed this story, let me know by leaving a like and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Share this video with others who might enjoy it, and subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss a new story.